Welcome to this Mastery Empowerment course from New Earth One Network. This is designed exclusively for your higher self connection and embodiment. Carsten is a spiritual mentor, and he is the creator of Carsten Energy Alignment and the Miracle in 3 Breaths. Welcome, Carsten. Thank you for being here.
Oh, Lauren, it's such a pleasure, and I'm just excited to share.
So we're going to do a rainbow body activation. This is really empowering the divine feminine. Before we get there, let's take a look and let's zoom out on our world and see from a larger perspective, a higher perspective, what is going on from your perspective as a spiritual teacher.
Well, I think as of 2012, there was all that information around 2012. Some people said the world was going to end. Others said we're moving into a new age. I see us as moving from really a 10,000-year duality cycle, patriarchal, male-dominated, based on the power is out there and we've got to figure it out. So we've been going through that. And because of that, there's a lot of me against the world, me against you. It's all trying to fight for our own space. And as of 2012, we really have moved into what I call the empowered divine feminine, recognizing that it's all relationship and there's no separation from what's in here and what's out there. And the gift is that the energies are working with us. The challenge is we've got this programmed mental body that still is so focused, especially when we feel those uncomfortable feelings come up. There's kind of a war going on between our brain, what we think the world is about, and these energies that are wanting to move through the emotions. I think we think we're these separate bodies, and these bodies are really just vessels for our soul energy to come in and play in this creative playground. It really is a playground, and we've made it really serious because in trying to figure it out, thinking we're separate from the world, we've closed ourselves off from these feelings. And the power of the feelings is that they're pure. Our thoughts, it's duality. It's, one person thinks this is true, another group thinks this is true. We get these conflicting energies. But the feelings are pure energy that's wanting to move up and activate the entire chakra system. So a lot of the work that I do, especially now, it's really focused on the throat chakra and being able to connect the throat and our ability to listen within.
Can you describe a little bit more about those energies moving through the emotion? What do you do when it seems so intense? If there's feelings that come up, are there tools that you use to move the energy? And I guess you'd first have to recognize it.
Right. Well, that's a big part of it. We've been so outwardly focused, thinking that the power is out there, and we've got to navigate what's out there. So that's a lot what our mental processes have been. First of all, how do I fit in? I work with the Saturn cycles. I'm not an astrologer, but the planet Saturn and the Saturn cycles, having worked with so many people, because I do readings, I do energy work, I do an energetic body work technique. And in working with so many people, I really see, and also focusing on my own life, my own healing journey has been a big part of my awakening. The first 28, 29 years, that first Saturn cycle. And for people who don't know what the Saturn, because I always heard that about, well, what's your Saturn cycle? It's simply the orbit of the planet Saturn, which affects our life. My feeling is when our soul decides to incarnate into this beautiful Mother Earth, this wonderful time and space playground, it looks through the lens of the planet Saturn for the right time, the right place, the right family situation. And each of our family situations are people that have been on this journey with us for a long time. And we come together to clear karma. So the uncomfortable feelings are the fertilizer, I call them, or the nutrition that helps us to activate the chakra system and thus clear the mind. And so the first Saturn cycle really is about kind of pulling in more karma. We choose the exact family that's going to push our buttons. We have the fantasy that, well, I need a family that gives me unconditional love. No, you need a family that's going to trigger your stuff and give you a lot of fuel that's consistent with kind of what you came in with, that's going to help move you to the next level. So the first level, the first Saturn cycle is a karmic cycle, and it's tell me who I need to be. It's the cycle where we put away the knowing that we came in to share with the world, and we take on the karma so that we can develop our human personality. So we tell the world, who do I need to be? What do you expect of me? And then Saturn comes around our 29th birthday, a little bit before, and it says, okay, your problem solver cycle is over. The problem you need to solve is, how do I fit into the world the way it is, and what's going on out there? I need to be familiar with the belief systems, of the collective consciousness. And then Saturn comes around and says, okay, you're here. If we're still here and functioning at 29, it means we've made it. It's successful. Then for a lot of people, a lot of shifts can happen around that time. A relationship breaks up, somebody dies, they find themselves living someplace else. That's partly because we're ready to let go of that programming and begin to let these new seeds blossom. And they're planted in our DNA. So we get a lot of support. Doesn't mean it always feels good, because we're confronting old beliefs and feeling like we're leaving parts of ourselves behind. But if you recognize what's happening, it's much more easy to get into the flow of what I call the adventurer cycle. And the adventurer cycle is about discovering who I really am in relationship to the world. And what's helpful for my clients is to remind them that they're always in the place of power. They're always exactly where they're supposed to be. So some of the simple affirmations I share with them, especially when things are triggering and they think, well, I've got this energy that says I'm supposed to be somewhere else, but I feel like I'm stuck here. I ask them, what if nothing's wrong? And what if nothing has gone wrong? Because we have a tendency, when new energy comes up and we want something new, we start looking at the past and pull up old regrets and resentments, thinking, oh my God, if that hadn't happened, I'd be okay. It's really helpful to remember that we're always in the perfect place in relationship to our soul's knowing of what's happening and where we're going and the lessons we need to learn along the way. So first thing I ask myself, or I encourage clients to do, is when they come to me with a problem or something that's really triggering them, what if nothing's wrong? What if this is just what's happening? And that allows you, number one, to move into the moment and to let go of that old belief, because we're all programmed with uncomfortable emotion, triggers the story in our head, something's wrong, I need to fix. So we feel these uncomfortable emotions and we go into fight flight, which pushes us out into the outside world. If you think about what's happening when you feel an uncomfortable emotion, it's your body, your energetic body, calling your attention to the feeling. We've learned to jump up from the feeling, to jump up into our head to try to figure things out. Animals don't do that. They're always in the present. If they get triggered by something, they feel it and they'll go into a shudder and release it. We humans jump up into our head, start rehashing the past of what went wrong, and then start projecting that same energy into the future. And that's what karma is. Because we all, once we get to 30 years old, all of us are pretty good at problem solving and fixing. And the question is, do you want to spend the rest of your life being a problem solver and constantly trying to navigate the problems out there? Or do you want to be on an adventure, a creative adventure, really going where your inner soul energy wants to take you, your dreams, your visions, the things that excite you? And so really what I do is help people focus on those triggering things, the things they think that went wrong, and begin to shift their focus so they begin to take that as nourishment, because that's the stuff that helps to clear the path, open the channel for the karma to clear. And so it's simply, I've been triggered. Thank the messenger. And this is stuff from the presence process, which I think that's part of the offer we're going to be giving at the end. The presence process is really good at reprogramming the old, what I would call the error thinking, the negative beliefs that are all about me against the world, and allowing you to take this powerful conscious mind, which has been trying to figure out the world, and reconnect it with the chakra system. And then things start to open up when this mental body, the intellect, as we can call it, begins to just experientially notice what's going on in these chakras. It makes room for the Shakti to rise. That Shakti, that Kundalini energy is always wanting to come up. But when it hits and wants to clear some of the old karmic stuff, which means uncomfortable feelings are coming up, we jump up into our head, jump into some fixing, and there's always something that we can focus an uncomfortable feeling on. And you can watch yourself doing this. You feel an anxiety, watch yourself going through those, what I call the Saturn V: money, career, relationships, health, or living situation. And then you'll start focusing on one of those and come up with a plan, and that'll make you feel better because you're pushing the feeling back down. But it just puts more energy into you as the problem solver. And so life is going to be a series of jumping from fixing one problem to the next. And so simply feeling, breathing into it. Our breath is our most powerful, I call it a sensing organ, because if you focus your mind with your breath into the body, you can start to feel the energetic system. We all have these deep, powerful senses that are in our DNA, but we've trained ourselves to ignore them, to not listen to them. And that's why they get stronger and stronger. People's stuff comes up, oh my God, that was overwhelming to me. It's because you've got a lot of unintegrated stuff down there, and we haven't learned to breathe into it. Most people, when they get triggered, something comes up, they hold their breath. That's one thing for me. When I get triggered, I notice I've got shallow breathing. And sometimes it's subtle. Sometimes I don't realize I've been triggered. I'm moving through the day. Suddenly realize, oh, I'm not breathing. What's going on? And I can stop and take a deep breath. And sometimes it's not even a mental idea that I know what the discomfort was, but just simply breathing into it, I feel a lightness and something starts to lift. And that's helpful for people to remember. I share with clients that some of these strong feelings that come up, they're not about anything that's happening in your life now. It's what's happening because we're in this new cycle, this divine feminine, where we're clearing old karma from our ancestors and from past lives. So when strong feelings come up and there's nothing you can specifically hang it on, just trust that it's old stuff and give yourself the space to feel. We're feelers rather than fixers. We're experiencers, adventurers, rather than problem solvers. We're also creative adventurers. So if we decide we're the problem solver, then life will agree with us and start to bring us problems. the powerful thing about the presence process and some of the other things that I teach is that you find yourself in spontaneous action. When I first heard that phrase, I thought, wow, that sounds scary. And the reason it sounds scary, most of us are afraid of spontaneous action because we don't think the world out there is safe. And the divine feminine is really here to begin to teach us that life is always working in our favor because it really is a projection of consciousness. And I think that's the gift of where we are. The scientists, from the very male, point of view, have been trying to figure out the world. But in the last 50 years, they've come into agreement with the mystics, the great mystics, that everything is a projection of consciousness. So that's really where we are. We're at we're now taking the baby steps into this new paradigm of being conscious co-creators with source, with that divine source. And the divine source speaks to us through Mother Earth, our physical body and nature, which is all around us, supporting us, and the breath. And which is what I think of the breath as our consciousness, and it's what allows us to be conscious within this time and space playground, or this beautiful, Garden of Eden, which is really what Mother Earth is.
I love how you said trust that what you see coming up is the feeling that you'll move through, because sometimes the density of the outer world could be really shaking. For example, here in my hometown, we had a violent tragedy, and there's pain that comes up, there's grief. We're feeling it on the collective, but also personally. Can you talk about, once we clear that we're not just clearing it for ourselves, but we are clearing it for the collective?
Yes, yeah. Well, one of the things that's really become clear to me, part of my journey has opened me up to the guidance that's always present, and the way that guidance seems to solidify in my mind is through some of these dynamic angels that we all, that our consciousness in the past has opened to. One of them is Metatron, and I think of that as the more male energy that guides me, and the other one is Kuan Yin, who's the divine feminine that are there. And I'm just gonna tune into him for a minute to see what Kuan Yin has to say. Yeah, Kuan Yin is so clear that it's about listening and trusting the physical body. Because our physical body, number one, is mostly water, which connects us with the ocean. And to me, the ocean is the expression of Kuan Yin. It's the divine feminine, which can flow and move. And if we stay open, and we're so focused on trying to figure out life based on old traumas and old patterns and decisions we made about life early on that aren't necessarily true. And that's part of the joy of this human experience, is those aha moments when, because we're trying to figure things out, suddenly we feel that support. And that's always what that aha moment is. And we feel it physically. That's how we know it's an aha moment, right? We can figure things out in our head and it can be okay. But the aha moment gives us goosebumps. It makes us feel lighter. It makes us feel connected. Suddenly we feel that there's a support or there's guidance there. And I'm not sure if that answers your question, but
Thank you. I love that, because the guidance is always there, and if we tune into it, that's wonderful. There's a couple things that you said that I want to go back to. One is that simply feeling with the breath, you can feel the energetic system. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
okay, so let's, the energetic system is always there, but we're so focused out there, and a lot of us, we're so used to living in fight flight that these more subtle energies we're not able to feel. Either something has to feel really good and then we know that's good, or really bad to get our attention. But once we start clearing, once we start getting settled, that's why meditation is so helpful. And I tell people that meditation can be simple. You know what, let's do the miracle in 3 breaths, because this is something that I discovered when I was teaching yoga in New York City at the West Side Y. It was a Friday night class at 5 o'clock. So I would get people who were real stressed out from working 9 to 5 all week. And so people would ask, that they'd come in and you could see it in their face how stressed they were. And then they leave the class in this kind of la place. And then they would ask me, how do I maintain this during the week? So I came up with what I call the miracle in 3 breaths. So I invite anyone who's watching now, just get comfortable. And the first thing I want you to do is just connect with gravity. Feel that magnetic umbilical cord from Mother Earth saying, hey, you're supposed to be here. This body is your safe, grounded place. And just breathe into it. Notice how just focusing on the breath and gravity, these two powerful energies that are always loving us, whether we're thinking about it or not, feel how good it feels just to take the mental body and focus on that loving support. And then the first breath, we simply exhale all the breath. The first breath, we simply breathe in that connection with Mother Earth. And Laura and I invite people to do this with their eyes open, because a lot of us are used to, oh, my eyes closed, I can go within and I'm connected. But the minute we open our eyes, we're back in our duality personality. So to practice the miracle in 3 breath with your eyes open, it will allow you to do it even if you're in the middle of what can feel like a contentious conversation with someone. I'll suddenly just start doing the miracle in 3 breaths, acting like I'm listening and still listening as best as I can, but I'm creating a space. And the powerful thing about creating a space of balance, it's much more powerful than any imbalance, because it's the truth of who we are. And we'll get to the miracle in 3 breaths, but I like to share this experience because it really exemplifies how powerful it is. I was finishing up my BA in theater when I lived in New York City, and part of the process was I was directing and producing a play in this off Broadway theater, and we had just had opening night. It was very successful. We had a full house, and the owner of the theater came by on her way home from partying with friends. And she was in a state, and she says, Carsten, you're supposed to be out of here by now. We have neighbors, and, the contract says you're only allowed to be here this much. And I said, well, when I booked the theater, I told you we're doing this play that's longer. And you said that was no problem. No matter what I said, it wasn't working. It was escalating. My cast was standing around. She was saying she was going to throw us out of the theater. And we had 3 more weeks of reservations that we had. And so I began doing the miracle in 3 breaths, just kind of nodding as she was continuing to go on and on. And suddenly in the middle of it, she stopped and said, well, Carsten, I know you're doing the best you can, and just make sure you're quiet when you leave. And she walked out and left. And my cast looked at me and said, you just did yoga voodoo on her, didn't you? And I said, well, yeah, I guess I did. So it's so powerful. We can remember that our energy affects those around us, and the energy of balance and calm is more powerful than any other energy. And if we can hold it for ourselves, it affects the energies around us. So now, eyes open, let's do the miracle in 3 breaths. So once again, did you have any questions about that? It looked like you.
Well, I just wanted to say how valuable this tool is as we go about our world, healing the polarization. The miracle of 3 breaths, the 3 miracle breaths, right, can be that tool in diplomacy when we listen to others. I love that.
Right. And the reason it's so powerful is, and it's really helpful for me to share this, because every time I share it, I reinforce it for myself, because there's a lot of error thinking out there, and it's real easy to get pulled into the old beliefs. But we evolve the planet, the world, the whole system just by breathing through each day. We get so programmed very early on that we have to prove ourselves. That our innate self-worth kind of gets pulled out of us. That's part of that first karmic cycle. Because we're in this new divine feminine, I believe that's going to be melting away. When I work with younger people, late teens, early 20s, especially the women, they already get it. All I need to do is just give them a little bit of moving away of all the stuff they've been told. and you can just see them blossoming into it. We are so much more powerful than we've allowed ourselves to believe. And that's partly what these practices will help us get the experience of that. So, connecting with gravity, which is your divine relationship with Mother Earth and this wonderful body, I call it the body garden. We connect with gravity, feel that connection with the breath, and then we exhale all the breath, keeping the eyes open. We pull in our connection with Mother Earth on the inhale. And then as we exhale, we just notice how that feels to be present. And then we open the crown and draw in that divine energy from source. And as we exhale, we feel or imagine that energy moving through the body, activating and balancing every cell, every system of the body. And then the third breath opens the heart. And then we hum softly, allowing the vibration to bring it all into balance. And then the most important part is just giving yourself a couple of breaths just to notice where those 3 breaths have taken you. And I know when I do this with a group, and sometimes we'll do it, a couple of times, but you really only need just once you start to practice it. When I do it with the group, I can start to see the auras, the energy around their body just begin to blossom. And that's the other thing when we really start to listen, even just with something as simple with the miracle in 3 breaths, and then just noticing, you will start to see the energy around. When I do my toning, I often go into and this relates to what you shared about the crows that were showing up for you, the ravens. When I go into the botanical gardens, which is where I love to go here in San Francisco in Golden Gate Park, and do my toning, usually around late in the day, usually around sunset, because it's just a powerful time when often Metatron is present. I'll do a tone. I like to go. They've got a redwood forest in there with the big trees, which just I can feel their support. And I'll do a tone. And everything will get completely still for a moment. And for a long time, I thought, oh, that's just a coincidence. But it's not, because it happens all the time. If it's already still and I do a tone, as soon as I finish, suddenly the breeze will come in. It's like the trees are saying, thank you, Carsten. Thank you, Carsten. And that's really the sound healer that I worked with. To develop this, and I never planned to do it, but my mom was sick. I went out to take care of her at the end of her life. She had liver cancer, and she was really towards the end of her life. And I ran into this person in a Korean restaurant, and I was just called to speak to him. And about the third thing out of his mouth was, well, I'm a healer and I work with my voice. And I said, oh, that's interesting. My mom's got liver cancer. Would you be willing to work with her? He said, well, I think that's why I came in here, because I usually don't come into this restaurant, but I wanted to do it. So he came over, and my mom was kind of reticent, but once she talked with him, she opened up to it. He worked with her for a month, and then we went to get her regular blood work done. And when the results came back, her, medical, uh, doctor came in with this befuddled look on his face, and he said, have you been doing anything differently? And she kind of looked at me and sheepishly said, because she was embarrassed, well, my son's connected me with this sound healer. And he said, well, keep it up, because your numbers have dropped in half. They had been going up steadily for 4 years, and they had dropped in half. And
Oh,
yeah, and so when I began working with him a couple of years later, he took me into the forest. He would take me to the redwood forest, and he said, he's teaching me to listen, and we would tone and then listen for the trees to send the energy back. And anyone can do this. And that's why I like the miracle in 3 breath. That simple hum. You don't have to be able to make, I've been doing this tone for a long time. I had many years training my voice. But you don't have to have a perfect sound. It's the vibration and the fact that you're making it, which brings you into that space of harmony. And that's really what I teach in my soul singing class, along with a lot of other stuff to activate the throat chakra so you can begin to feel and hear that guidance that's always there.
You know, it is the vibration that we are emanating. And I love how you call it the miracle in 3 breaths,
Mm-hmm.
because in such an instant, it brings such a presence, but it's an immaculate awareness of what we are vibrating. And you literally used it to dispel that whole entire situation without even saying a word. So I just say, I just love that. And I hope that everyone uses that, because that is how the polarity is healed. I wanted to also go back with what you said about activating the chakras and
Mm-hmm.
the throat chakra. And I find it really interesting that so much can happen in the throat. For example, I'll share a personal story. I've been taking singing lessons just to sound better so my family doesn't complain so much, because I love to sing.
Uh-huh.
And so, in the middle of it, here's the point. I starting to sing in the key, in my, not soprano, but in my key like this, I start crying, and we can't figure that out. And I know it's something very deep, something very soulful. So, can you share about this activation of the throat? What could possibly be going on there, from past lives, from ancestral lineage, to expressing
Well,
ourselves?
well, the universe is literally, our physical universe is the combination of two vibrations, light and sound. Sound is the one that allows us to experience the physical. The quantum scientists tell us there's nothing really solid out there, but it's the vibration that does it. And music, as opposed to speaking, because if you're speaking to someone, it's not necessarily going to bring you to tears, but music for so many people often will, especially if you're deciding to do it, you're deciding you want to sing and you start to activate the voice. It's not about an intellectual concept. It's not about trying to share some sort of idea. It's just about the flow that automatically connects you right down into the solar plexus, the heart, all the way down into the sacral, which is where we hold those old unintegrated angers, fears, and griefs. And all of them are always cleared with tears. Think of the tears, our tears have the same chemical compound as the ocean. And so it really, tears are really brainwashing in the best kind of way. They're clearing out the old stuff. So that, I find that so often when I work with clients, even if I'm making the tone, I'll do a tone. My partner is Mongolian, and his sister is a famous singer. She's like the Madonna of Mongolia, and she came to visit a couple of years ago. And she doesn't speak any English, and I don't speak any Mongolian, but she's into this the spiritual world. And so Turo had told her what I did. So I was doing an energy session with her, and the minute I started working with her and did the first tone, she just began to sob, and I knew that it was ancestral stuff that was coming up. The family karma that people hold, because that's what comes up so often, especially if the I'm in relationship to the partner, so I'm also connected with that karma. But I did the first tone, and she just began to sob almost through the whole session, and we both knew it was healing. And then at the end of the session, Turo came in, and my partner, they hugged and sobbed for about 5 minutes, and I could just feel, probably thousands of years of ancestral stuff just clearing out. And that's the gift of me doing this work, is I feel the energy flowing when I do it. And I'll share with you how Metatron showed up in my life. I was working with a client that I'd been working with regularly for a year. She was in a relationship, and those relationships are such blessings, especially the ones that the mental body says, I have no idea why I'm attracted to this person, and they're totally wrong for me, but here I am in it. It's because it's the karmic pattern is saying there's healing going on here and you need to allow it. So I've been working with her for quite a while, and she came, and I was working through the Carsten energy alignment. I start with the standing process, and it's really about getting them balanced over Mother Earth and gravity, which is so important, because once we align with gravity, this Shakti automatically, bless you, this Shakti automatically starts to rise. Um, and after I get them balanced, then I open up the heart chakra. So I was doing that with the tone. I took a deep breath, and it's always very intuitive with me. I'm just kind of tuning into what's going on with them. I take the breath, and just something else comes in, and just the tone comes out. And very often when I'm opening the heart chakra, I have to move back because I can feel the energy opening up. So I took this deep breath. The tone started, my eyes were closed, but with my inner vision, I saw the window in my living room burst open, and this energy came in. It was like this moving energetic pattern that I could see. It was very orange and yellow, moving into pinks, and it filled the room. It surrounded us, and I was backed up all the way against the wall. And as it came in, I just heard the word in my inner hearing, Metatron. And I didn't really have any connection with Metatron at all. And the tone lasted forever, forever. And when it finally finished, both my client and I just began to laugh, just with this joyful laugh. And ever since then, all I've had to have to do is think about Metatron, and he's present. I'm feeling him right now. And it's such a loving energy. Even when I would go to like look up stuff like online about, oh, Metatron, what's that all about? The minute I would move to the computer, I would hear Metatron going, what are you looking on the computer for? I'm right here, you know? And that's the other thing. There's so much wonderful information out there, but I feel like my goal and my gift is to be able to allow people to tune into their own divine inner intelligence, because it's
Yeah.
all there. It's all there inside when we learn to listen, and we will be guided to learn things and connect with things out there, but to remember that you're the source of the most information and power for yourself.
That is powerful with the bevy of information that's out there. It's almost like too much information. And so, how do we navigate? We navigate by going within, like you mentioned, listening to that voice, distinguishing that voice. So, let's talk a little bit about the higher self. And I love what you shared about Metatron, because we can also talk about Metatron. Again, it's the trust. You trusted the word, and then you went and researched it, and then you trusted more what he said. You listened. Now, Metatron could be a higher aspect of you, or an aspect, definitely an aspect of you. Your higher self has a voice as well. Do you think it's similar to Metatron's, or is it different? And how did you learn to hear it?
It's more than learning. It's just about opening up and trusting that it's there. And I would say Metatron is my higher self. Kuan Yin is my higher self. We're very creative people. I mean, that's what we're here for. And since science has told us we're really making the whole thing up, that's the gift of being human. We're a divine aspect of God who has said, I want more. And that's what duality is. You have to have two. I think of the Big Bang as that divine source, which is just pure God energy, deciding I want more. It's Eve in the Garden of Eden. Everything was perfect, everything was wonderful, everything was in a sense stationary because nothing was moving. And Eve said, I want the knowledge of good and evil, which is basically the knowledge of duality and the ability to create. And so God said, you ate the apple. She said, okay, you're now co-creators with us, and thrust us out. That's the Big Bang. Boom. Now suddenly this whole thing exists. And so Metatron and all our ideas about God are just what's happened as this human brain has grown to try to figure out what's going on, and been able to tune into what I call the dream world, because there's some wonderful ancient teachings, a lot of ancient Indian teachings, that the world was dreamed into existence, that there's a whole other world that's not quite as solid as this one, and we go into it every night when we dream. So Metatron is my higher power. Uh, it's just my higher power showing up as Metatron with all that energy that all the other human beings that have tuned into that energy of Metatron. You know the Metatron's cube, that sacred geometry. I was attracted to that years ago, having no idea that it was connected to Metatron. It was my study that helped me. Oh, well, that's what that is about. But my higher power is also my parents, who both of them, I had a very, very crazy childhood. I actually just got back from a trip down south to visit a friend who I grew up with, who was molested by my dad at a very young age. And we reconnected. He was my best friend, and I mean, it's a long story. It's part of the memoir I'm writing right now. But so much healing has continued to happen, and it took me confronting once I passed my first Saturn cycle, and the memories started to come up as I began to step into myself in the 30s. I confronted my dad about what happened by writing him letters. He wrote back basically still in denial. So I basically said, okay, I'm moving on. And I didn't speak to him for the last 5 years of his life. But that stepping into my own truth with him, and this is also what's happening on the planet with the Me Too movement, with the Black Lives Matter. This is the throat chakra activating. This is people saying, no, I'm here. And it's also everybody waking up, seeing how much stuff was out of balance. And it's always a journey. Uh, but that the higher power is whatever, however it shows up, to give you that connection of the unseen energies. It's the unseen energy, and higher power is always going to feel good. It's never judgmental. It always feels lighter rather than heavy, and it always feels like you've got support. It feels comforting. And after my parents passed, and I had really come to a big place of forgiveness when my father passed. It's interesting. Both my brother and sister were so angry at him after he passed because he didn't reach out to us and let us know that he was sick. But for me, I felt such a sense of relief, number one, because the little child in me knew I'm safe now. And the adult in me, the spiritual person in me, said, thank God he's free now. And that karmic pattern has now been released with me. And so, because of a course that I took in sort of how to tune in to those people who had passed, I was comfortable tuning into my mom, but my dad had never been present. There's actually a blog post on my website about this. I was trying to tune into my mom, but suddenly I felt my dad there. And at first I was kind of reticent to let him in, but it just felt like pure love. And I got one of the most powerful messages I've ever gotten from him. And all I have to do is think of him and he's present. So that's my higher power too. Because anyone that you share DNA with who has moved on, they're there for you simply by you thinking of them and opening to them, because they continue to have an investment in this earth playground through you. And so, we sit on this pyramid of souls. We think of ourselves as a separate body, but there's you, mom and dad, the 4 grandparents, the 8 great grandparents, the 16 great great, on and on and on and on, all the way back to the very beginning of Mother Earth. All that experience, all that life, every breath that your ancestors have taken, it's in your DNA. And this isn't woo-woo stuff. And of course, I believe in the woo-woo stuff, but this is science now. Science, says this. And for us, it's really learning how to tune in and listen and to stay open. And the first thing is, what if nothing's wrong? What if everything is happening in divine order? That's another thing I love to give to my clients. I call them affirmative feeling prayers. So when a client comes to me and they're really wound up, they've got a lot of stuff going, money, career, relationships, health, living situations, sometimes they seem to all come in at once. I invite them to speak to source, whatever their sense of source is, even if it's just the universe. And your question is, what does it feel like to trust life and know that it's working in my favor? And then, since we've asked a feeling question, we take a breath, clearing the mind, moving into the heart, and then just noticing how that feels. Because that's really what we need to do now. We need to start connecting this Mental body, particularly when we get triggered, when we start to go into fight flight, we need to start connecting it to what's going on down here, because that's what's been missing. Our chakras are working fine and they're pretty much in balance, but we detach this powerful intellect from the chakras because we've been trying to figure out life. And when we can connect them, especially when we're triggered with what's going on within, we call in that guidance. We call in the synchronicities. Life seems to begin to work in our favor rather than against us. And that simple, affirmations, they can be tough, because if you're saying, I'm rich, I'm rich, I'm rich, but I'm totally overdrawn at the bank and I've got all this credit card debt. You've got these two things. So an affirmation can actually affirm what you don't want. But if you ask for a feeling, source, what does it feel like to know that I'm always divinely provided for? Take a breath and just notice the feeling. And whatever feeling comes up is okay, because sometimes the first feeling that will come up is go, oh, but I'm not. And what does that feel like? You breathe into the discomfort without needing to do anything with it, without jumping up into your head and coming up with a plan. Just feel it. You will feel the feeling move. What most of us do with that strong feeling, as I said before, is we hold our breath. The feeling is calling for the breath. And that almost, or very often, is what will move you to tears. I know when I work with the good therapists who work energetically, they invite you to breathe into the discomfort and see what's there. And very often a memory will come up from the past, or else you'll just find yourself moving into tears. That's why the humming is helpful too. And that's why you feel it with the singing, because we're breathing more deeply. We're bringing the breath to the throat chakra, and the throat chakra has a brilliant ability to connect these upper chakras as well as our physical senses with the heart and these lower chakras. And if you add a tone to it, you've just got the whole thing lined up. Things are flowing.
So, yes, the singing, what I realized in my own experience is that it was the tears that come up was belief systems that I had. So what you just shared there explains that deep, deep clearing that we're doing. And oh my goodness, it's like when you cry at the drop of a hat, then just know that you are clearing a lot of things. Know and trust that. I really loved what you shared in your personal story with your dad. And this may be a little bit off topic, but it's so cool that you could consciously connect with him in meditation. I find it interesting that you were like, no, no, you're not allowed in here at first. For me, it happened with a dream with my stepfather, and I was kind of like shocked to see him in my dream, and he was looking young. And that was, and he came several more times in the dreams after that. Those were very healing for our relationship from the other side. You had that same thing too, from a meditation perspective. Did you also have dreams about your dad?
Yes, before I wrote the letters, I would have many dreams of really expressing the rage I had about having my sexual boundary. There's so much stuff, and it'll be in the memoir. But I would have dreams where I was just confronting him. There was also a lot of abuse with my younger sister, where I felt responsible, being the older brother, not being able to stop it. So that was some of my dreams, where I was protecting her, and really in my dreams activating my own strength as an adult, not being a child anymore, to reaffirm that. But after I wrote the letters, which was so clearing, I had a number of dreams. They would come, maybe one or two a month, where one, I was lying in bed with him, and it wasn't sexual, but it was the comfort that I used to feel as a little young child when I would get scared and go and crawl in bed. And that's why that, and it's so much more prevalent than people realize, that the sexual abuse, it's almost always with someone we love and trust, or it can very often be that way. And so it's so confusing, because you get this love and this trust and this support, but then there's this other thing that is just so opposite from that. But there was, and a lot when these memories, because I had blocked it all until I moved to my Saturn return, which happens a lot for people.
Your first one?
My first one, yeah.
At like
29,
29?
moving into my 30s, it all came up. I had some physical stuff going on. I couldn't move forward. I had the problem with my foot, and it was all my body saying, you can't move forward doing your same kind of fight flight. I'm going to go out there and prove myself until you heal this stuff. So, life came in and said, no, this is your journey. And it's really what brought me into my healing journey and the memories of this stuff. But part of my struggle was asking myself, oh, did this really happen? You know, because if it's something you didn't remember as it happened, and it came up in some therapy sessions. And so one of the most powerful dreams was I was lying in bed with my dad. It was very comfortable and loving. And I asked him, did it happen? And he very clearly said, yes, it did. And I woke up that morning with just such a powerful sense of knowing that another big step had been taken into me reclaiming myself. And then I would continue to have dreams with him. I dream about him quite often. And sometimes the dreams are that old anchor still coming up, because these things have layers. And so to feel it and move on. And I think my belief is, whether you're consciously trying to heal and you're going to reaching out to therapists or this, we're healing. With each breath, we heal. And that also helps me to let go of needing to jump in and try to push other people into the path that I've had, to step back and realize that everyone has their own journey. We all have infinite lifetimes, no matter how many we need. And I had a very good friend who had drug problems all his life, and died in his 40s of a heroin overdose. And uh, after I would, really opened up this channel to be able to tune into people who'd passed on, I always wondered, why is Michael never present? Because I would love to have connected with him. And then one day, once again, when I was at the botanical gardens doing my meditations, he was there, and I said, Michael, where have you been? And he said, well, I've been around, but every time I show up, I get all this negative stuff about what a tragic life I had. He said, I lived the life that I wanted to. I left when I wanted to, and it was just what my soul needed to learn. And I was like, oh, okay. And it was really a revelation, because I began looking at everyone in my life differently. All the people I judge because, oh, they're really not on the path and their life's a big mess. And the interesting thing is, when you stop sending your negative story to someone, regardless of what their life is like, other parts of them show up for you and for them. So that's another thing that I teach clients when they're having problems in a relationship. I said, see the best in that person, even if that's not what's showing up in the moment. It's a challenge, but it's so healing and it's so freeing for you, because whenever we're judging people, it's always because they're triggering something in us that we're not willing to look at. And it's that old Buddhist teachings of non-resistance and total acceptance. Well, one of my other favorite books is Byron Katie, Loving What Is. And it really brings you into that new view of the world. What if everything's happening perfectly and in divine order, and always leading you to where you're wanting to go?
I'm right there with you. What if? What if?
Yeah, yeah.
Let's everyone watching hold that vision, and hold that attitude, and hold that perspective, and just be aware of what we are emanating out into the world, and how we talk to others as well, and just moving through in new earth as we create new earth. I want to make sure we leave time for an activation. I'll let
Yeah.
you talk about what we're going to do there. But really, this is when we talk about new earth and the new paradigm that we're moving into, and our imagination, and how we dreamt the world. We hear that we've dreamt the world. Well, now we're dreaming this together. We're dreaming new earth together. First, we're raising our vibration by doing this incredible amount of healing. The toning that you bring in, I just wanted to share that that was very present and peaceful in the moment. And that's what we're creating. And isn't it interesting that the Aborigines remember walking and singing the earth into existence? So that's what we're all doing. What can you share about creating and empowering our personal vision for the earth?
Well, I think start by recognizing it's like when we first sent that spaceship up in the earth and we were able to turn around and actually get a view of the earth. the earth is already, I get goosebumps when I think about it. The earth is already in divine order. So when we can stop and really be present with what's going on in here without needing to fix or do anything else, what if not only, what if nothing's wrong? What if nothing went wrong? What if everything really is happening perfectly? Then we start to feel that right here, right now. I mean, anyone that's watching you, Laura, and me, everything we want is right here. It really is all perfect. We get so programmed early on that life is about having to prove yourself, right? If you spend time with children, you know that they're just creative and joyful adventurers. They're just here playing and whatever. And then it's like, no, no, no. First, and then we ask them, well, what are you going to be when you grow up? And the kid, even though they can't express it, probably says, but I already be. I'm already here. It's like, no, no, you have to decide what you're going to be, because you have to be a productive member of society. So you got to go to school, you got to get good grades, you got to excel in something. And so it's like, oh, I'm not enough. I'm not enough. And that's why kids start looking at grown-ups like, oh, when I'm grown up, I can finally be there. And then we grow up and we still think, but I'm not there yet. And then that's why we live these fairly long lives. So hopefully by the time we get to, well, hopefully by the time we reach our first Saturn return, we start opening up into it. And that's the gift of this new age and what we've been learning. People are getting there much more quickly. The other thing we're seeing is the old eruption of the old karmic patterns and the misunderstanding of what life is about. So we're now arguing with each other about the beliefs and what it's really about. And that's why it's really important to trust your own, what was it that Seth used to say? Trust the validity of your own being, that you are valid, that you are this divine aspect of God, and your uniqueness is your gift.
And drop the judgment of others and
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah. Well, and it makes life so much, if I think someone else is doing something wrong, then there's also a trigger that I think I need to convince them or fix them or else push them away. If they're perfectly on their own journey, it's such a relief. That's the gift of the partner I'm with now, because he's very different from me in a lot of ways. And so he's continued to teach me to let go, to let go, to let go. And the gift in that is that's really where real intimacy comes up. If you have any agenda, and I'm going to say this for everyone because I know relationships are a challenge for people. Ask yourself, when you've got a challenge in your relationship, are you trying to fit the person that you're with into your idea of a relation, of what you think the ideal relationship is? Or are you in the process of enjoying this unique individual who has blessed you by being present in your life and wanting to be present in your life? The other thing is, don't lose yourself in that, because that's how you show up for the other person, by listening to your inner guidance, setting your boundaries, speaking your truth without having to make the other person wrong. Simple things, but it takes practice, because so many of us with our child rearing thing is about how do we make mom and dad happy. And so we learn that codependency very early.
Thank you, Karsten. So let's empower the heart with a crystalline activation of Saint Germain's violet flame.
Oh,
Is that the
beautiful.
process that you want to do for us?
Yes, yes. This is what I'm going to do. So the Saint Germain purple flame is really, it's the purple flame of compassion, humility, and forgiveness. And those are three divine feminine qualities that are really blossoming on the planet. I look at Black Lives Matter. I look at the Me Too movement, and there's it's they're not vindictive movements. It's not about trying to stifle or put anyone else down. It's very powerful energy saying we're here and we need to be seen and heard and made space for. So we're really coming into that balance. So that's why I love to do the Saint Germain activation. We start by opening the portals that allow this divine energy to come in, and in relationship to this specific exercise, it's the two ankles, it's at the joints, the two ankles, the two knees, the two hips, the wrists, the elbows, the shoulders, and then the 13th portal is the entire spine, which opens right between the shoulder blades. And so what I like people to focus on first is that energy right between the shoulder blades. And imagine that your angels or your higher self is reaching in and grabbing that point and gently pulling it back. And just notice how the heart seems to open. There's a dynamic tension there. And that's the other thing that whenever you feel uh, pressure or discomfort in the body, very often it's dynamic tension calling in movement. And so just to breathe into it. So the same thing we do with uncomfortable emotions, you can do that with physical pain as well. Bring the healing breath to it and just make space for it. Because if there's something you need to know about it, it will show up, or just the space will allow the healing to come in. So I'm going to make a tone. We're going to do this a couple of times, moving from a lower tone in increments all the way up, and each of the increments is really activating and opening up these 13 portals. As I hit and hold the final tone, and you can close your eyes for this one, I want you to visualize a white rose right there in your heart chakra, your heart center, slowly opening, and in the center of it is that purple flame, that violet or purple flame of Saint Germain. And this is something, once it's open, that you can just focus on that at any time. Humming will always help, and you'll find that it will automatically bring you into more of a peaceful, open place. So here we go. Close the eyes. Now I want everyone to open their eyes again. Just gonna let them trust that the flame is there, because I want to activate my two new crystals. We've got, this is a kunzite. It's a golden kunzite. Kunzite is the crystal of heart activation. And we've got a uh, aquamarine, which is the crystal of simplification. It also is a throat chakra crystal. When we can focus on the throat chakra and allow it to just activate as we breathe in and out, it makes things more simple because it starts connecting all of our energies. When we connect them in relationship to that purple flame, you're just going to feel this calming, soothing energy move throughout your entire body. So go ahead and close your eyes again. This time we're going to stay in that inner space for a while, and I may do the tone a number of times. Now opening the crown, breathe in that divine energy from above to just surround that purple flame with golden light. Now place one hand behind your neck, kind of with the fingers pointing down towards that heart, but right behind the throat. And your other hand, place it right so the thumb comes right up over your heart and the baby finger moves right down towards your belly button. And we're going to activate the entire chakra system. Activate's not really the right word. It's more harmonize, because your chakra system is always active, always working, but now we're connecting the mental body with it. If your arms and hands are getting tired, you can let them rest, because just placing them there has created that space. And just let these tones wash over you. I'm going to do a little bit of a sound bath. There's some some really create some nice space. And I'm really tuning in energetically to who's listening and what's going on the planet now for the earth chakra system, because we're really coming into harmony now. So trusting that we're bringing you into balance with your personal evolutionary path, as well as the evolutionary thrust of the planet itself and the cosmos at large. And that's what happens when we allow the mental body to trust its connection with all of life and then do some toning. That chakra system comes into harmony with our divine soul journey as an individual as well as a species. You can let your hands rest if you haven't already, and just breathing into whatever is present, whatever you're feeling. Let your focus gently move now to the soul star chakra, which floats about between 5 and 30 feet above your head. I like to think of it as a big lens, like a magnifying glass, that holds all the army of angels and ancestors. All your support is up there. And by focusing on it, you're able to pull it in. So I'm going to do another tone. And as I do this, I want you to reach up with your hands. You can just watch me reach up with your hands and gently pull that energy over you, just to create that open space, allowing it to flow out from you in all directions. There is that energy of, or that pyramid of souls, that those divine helpers that surround the earth, because each of us has our individual ones and then there's collective ones. So that's really what we're opening to, not only for ourselves, but for the planet. Bringing your awareness now back to the purple flame, I invite you all to take a deep breath and just make a soft, easy hum. Just enough vibration to let the breath bring the chords together, and just feel that bringing balance and harmony to every cell, every system of the body. And just allowing yourself to rest in the experience. Feel gravity continuing to ground you in perhaps a new, more full and comforting and satisfying way. Notice how gravity itself has a tendency to draw and pull that breath in. As you exhale, feel yourself settling in more deeply, becoming aware of the invisible substance which you're breathing in, which surrounds you, moves out from you, fills the room, fills the space outside your house, and connects you with all life on the planet. Just give yourself a moment to feel us breathing together. Not only just the human beings and the animals, but the trees, the sky, the ocean. Feel the waves that lap the shores as the breath of the ocean connecting with the physical land. Feel that salt water that flows through your tears. Feel the miracle of your body, all the relationships of every cell and every system working in harmony. And you don't have to think about it. This is all the power and presence of that source. We breathe whether we think about it or not. So when in doubt, allow the breath now that you've opened and awakened that consciousness in a new, fresh way, which is always happening with each breath, but it's activated now because we've come together with this intention to open and clear and awaken. Allow the breath, the conscious breath, to always bring you into that place of trust, balance, peace. Recognizing that even when we've still been triggered, when there's stuff going on, that place of silent, still peace is always present just by shifting the focus. And the more we get comfortable and open to that place, it can be the abiding presence no matter what's going on out there. And as you feel ready, no rush, just give your eyelids this suggestion that they'll gently open and allow this peaceful energy to flow out through the eyes into the room. Recognizing that your consciousness and your relationship with your soul and this human experience, we're creating it all. And trust that what we created here is continuing to emanate out and make space for you as you move forward into whatever next adventures life has in store for you.
Really feeling such inner peace and expansiveness. Thank you for that
As
activation.
I'm seeing a beautiful energy just floating around you as well. Yeah,
And
wonderful.
this is so wonderful for our planet. And this is the ease and the grace moving forward. Isn't that beautiful?
Beautiful. And I've got a couple of things coming up that is in the special offer here, and I want to put that out to everyone because this is really what's happening on the planet now. Is people are stepping into this and trusting it, and actually one of the gifts of COVID and opening up so much of this global connection is wonderful because we're really now taking advantage of the technology, and the technology is simply an expression of what's already going on. So I've got three things coming up. The presence process, which will be starting next week. It's actually a 12-week program. I know it says 7 weeks in the information, but the presence process actually lasts 12 weeks. We do the first 2 weeks reading through the first sections of the book, and then we move into this 10-week process. And you don't need to sign up with the course to do the presence process because you can just buy the book. It's The Presence Process, A Journey into Present Moment Awareness by Michael Brown. The gift of doing the process with me is we'll be doing these guided meditations each week. We'll be talking about what triggering is coming up and how to, specifically, individually connect your triggers with the practices in the presence process so everyone can really get skillful at being able to allow these emotions to self-liberate. Um, and then starting in April, we'll be doing the soul singing course again, and that is a 7-week course. And it's I'm almost finished with my second group that I've worked through it, and it's amazing, and it's evolving with each group. But people are just really coming into that balance of being able to trust that connection with the throat, these lower chakras, and the higher energies, and really being able to find a place where they're really expressing their truth and being able to listen and hear and connect with their guidance, because that's really what it's about. And then the other thing is the individual work I do, which I call it life path guidance sections, where we pull in the crystals, we do the toning. I look at my crystal cards. We'll look at your birth path, where you are on your Saturn journey, and if you sign up for both presence process at a reduced rate, because I'm giving you guys a great price, um, both the presence process and the soul singing, you get a free session with me. But you can also, if you just want an individual session, it's 50% off. So it's wonderful. And if anyone just wants to connect with me and has questions and stuff, you can reach me through my website, karstenspencer.com. And I look forward to connecting with you all, and feeling your energy, getting to know you.
Wow, thank you, Karsten. That special offer is available on the link on this webpage. And oh, wow, I just want to say how important it is to have people speak the voice of the heart. We've talked a lot about that here. It is time on our planet. And I just thank you so much for offering such a cool course to do it. I know people were really excited for the first one that you did, so they can sign up for this second one. Those are all recorded for people.
Yes.
They can practice and practice and practice with those recordings, right?
Yes,
And
and I give people a lot of tools, and I always tell people, take what you like and leave the rest, and never beat yourself up if if you don't have time to practice all the things. You're getting it. You're getting this information, just staying open to it. And practice. I've given you the miracle in 3 breaths and a bunch of stuff today, so feel free to practice that. And Lauren, I want to thank you for really making this venue available and really doing so much to open the door. And I really feel like the work we're doing together and the work that you're doing is we're just started to take baby steps into how much things are going to open. So I'm just excited to continue working with you. And the Earth One Network, I think, is such a wonderful gift for the planet. So thank you so much.
oh, thank you. Yes, this is another birth during the coronavirus pandemic, another opportunity to bring our world together in new ways, for everything to come up for restructuring. That's why those who do this inner work, this deep inner work, are literally changing the world, and we're building new structures based on that foundation of love, the
Yeah.
divine feminine as well. And I want to say, a personal session with you, how magnificent to experience the toning with you, to assist someone on a personal one-on-one level, and learning the crystal card info that you offer, life path guidance, the sound healing, and the energy balancing. I truly hope that everyone is feeling that balance of the energy, and we invite you to go back to that section of this video to experience it again, and of course, to sign up to work directly with Carsten Spencer and take his classes.
Yeah, and the great thing about working one-on-one is we really get to delve into your issues and see exactly what's going on. And we just undo the old stuff, and you really feel a sense of freedom.
We call those belief systems BS. And so, time to get rid of the BS, to bust out some BS.
Right,
Carsten
absolutely.
Spencer can help you with that. Awesome. Well, Karsten, thank you so much
You're
for
so welcome. So wonderful being with you as always.
awesome.
As always. All right, Lauren. Have a
Thank
blessed day.
New Earth One Network is a community-supported network. Purchases on this website not only support you, but your community, as the light that you raise in yourself indeed radiates out to the community. It also supports the teachers who bring this information. Plus, we give a portion of our proceeds to support children in the highlands of the Andes through the Pasquet organization. Proceeds from this network have built a greenhouse in the Highland Andes for a local school, offering a supply of healthy organic food for school lunches. And over the years, we've supported a young adult as she graduated from school and focused on her career in tourism. These proceeds have also helped us create sustainable businesses in Peru, such as this chicken farm, which helped create an income for a family in need. We thank you for your purchases at New Earth One Network. Together, we are New Earth. Soul Shine, activations and meditations for unity consciousness. Check out the special upgrade offer to own the meditations and activations and music videos in this program. You'll also have access to a bundle of mastery empowerment courses from our New Earth One teachers.